What up, fam? We back with another interview. I got a special guest on the channel with me today, Lavelle Jackson. Welcome to the channel, bro.
Hey man, it's good for you to have me. It's awesome to be out here. And, be a part of what you got going.
Man, I thank you for coming through, like for real, and taking time out. And I'm gonna go ahead and get into it, man. What was your upbringing? You know, what did you come up at? Like, what was your environment as a child?
As a child, I came up in an environment with I had my mother and my father. I come from a hunting family, so when people tell the stories about, man, we were really poor, we didn't have nothing to eat. We were poor too, but we ate good. We went hunting, you know. We ate good. So I had my mother and my father, and I had my brother's 6 boys and 1 girl, and we moved to Little Rock from North Little Rock when I was 3, and we moved right down behind Central High School. And during that time, we were still dealing with a whole lot of racism, you know, blacks and whites. So, but as the years went on, that became my community. That became my neighborhood, basically. So my upbringing was, it was decent. I can't take nothing from my mom and dad. You know, they provided everything that we needed. On the other hand, I had some brothers who was also some gangsters. You know, my brother DeWitt he was a gangster. My brother Shuni, he was a gangster. You know, and so they, you know, they still mostly hung in North Little Rock. And when they did come to Little Rock, you know, they had bought nightclubs and stuff. So, you know, at that point, at an early age, I was raised in a good environment. As it got a little later, you know, I kind of got into drugs, using them, selling them. And that was kind of my early upbringing. You know, went from one thing to another, mostly.
About what age did the drugs and stuff come in?
Well, the drugs came in more or less in a manner to where it's just, you know, at the end of the day, it came in. I'm trying to think of the greatest way to tell you this here is to, oh Lord. Okay, well.
Like what age was it? Like,
you know, and you know, I've told this story a million times. The thing about it is, at an early age, my brother then would tell me, you know, you should try everything one time. But my father was an alcoholic.
Right.
And so I come from a family of with an addiction. So at an early age, he gave me some marijuana. It's not supposed to do that, but it triggered something in me to where I started kind of using drugs myself. From there, I went on to I was having some issues in school. So I'm gonna say around 8 or 9, I started kind of really, you know, smoking weed, sipping sneaking some of my dad's drink. So to me, alcohol is one of the biggest drugs that there is, because it took me through all of the other drugs that I used. So I'm going to say 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 was some really crazy years for me, because I also, at one point, because of my addicted personality, I ended up in the state hospital. In the midst of that, in the state hospital, I was going to school there, and so they was continuously giving me medication. Well, this medication was so potent that I would take it, and I would just be like this here. That's kind of how they wanted me. My mom worked at the state hospital, so at this one time, this doctor, and they changed up my doctors. He come in, he said, "I want to see Mr. Jackson," and so he kept looking. He said, "He's 13," and so they were like, "Yeah." And I walked through the door, a little skinny black kid. He said, "Oh, he can't take this medication. This medication is for a 300-pound grown-up." And so when they took me off the medication, I ran away because I wasn't getting high no more. So I
Right.
stayed high. But what that did was send me back to the streets with a addiction that I was trying to chase and find.
What age did the gang banging come about?
Oh man, the gangbanging came about like way after, way after. I was about 28 or 29
Mm-hmm.
when I moved to Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
And the crazy part about that is I was also this great chef, man. Let me tell you something though. Before we get to the gang banging
Right.
part, you got to hear the
Yeah.
other part of it because
Right.
at an early age, when I was like 13, 12 and 13, I started cooking. And I ended up cooking at this place called Sambo, which used to be on Cantrell.
Mm-hmm.
Went from there and started cooking at the Little Rock Country Club. Well, man, I could cook.
Mm-hmm.
You hear me? Hear what I'm saying? I could cook, and I got to where I was able to do ice carvings. You know, you draw me a picture, I could do the ice carvings, but literally, I couldn't really read much. Um, so that affected me. But uh, I had, my thing was, hey, that's all right. I won Junior Chef of the Year 4 years straight. This was like 23, 24 years old. So I was an amazing cook. I was the one of the chefs at the Camelot Hotel. That's now the DoubleTree, the Holiday Inn, on airport.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'll tell you, when I went to prison and came back home, I was doing this program and I went out to the Holiday Inn airport and I was sitting there and they brought me the menu and the menu said sauteed trout Bridget and filet of sole LaFelle. And when the waiter came up, I said, "Do you know who started this?" He said, "No, this has been on the menu for years." I said, "Where's your chef?" And so he brought the chef out to the table and I said, I created this as a special and it's still on y'all menu. And he was like, "Oh, yeah, what's your name?" Uh, uh, Bridget was my daughter's name, and LaFelle Jr. was my son's name. So sauteed trout Bridget, filet of sole LaFelle. And this man was like, "Oh wow," So I was an amazing cook. Raised in a neighborhood where my brother then was like, they were like the first, like the Nation of Islam.
Mm-hmm.
Man, those was something else back in the days.
Right.
Okay, you couldn't come around with that mess back in the days. And so that's who I was under their wing. So a lot of my tactics came through them.
So I want to point out something very important because you being a chef of that caliber and choosing to gangbang over that, because see, this is what's going on today. A lot of the gangbangers got talents, they got gifts, and a lot of them don't even know it. Right. And what is the gap with that? Because for you to say that and then go to gangbanging after that, what happened to cause
shortcomings? See, I had also had my GED, but I couldn't really read. I was an amazing talker. You couldn't get nothing by me.
Right.
But I couldn't really read. And so when I went to Southern California, so I was following my dream. I wanted to become this great chef. When my brother picked me up from the bus station, I'm thinking Hollywood. We went straight past that to the projects in Watts, Imperial Courts. And so to the PJs, and that's where we was. We went straight past the Hollywood.
At what age was this?
Now I was like 26, 27.
And you come back to Little Rock at what age?
And I came back to Little Rock at 28, 29. Because I was only up there for a couple of years.
So when you come back to Little Rock, where did the OGC come into play? Like, did you get the game there, and then that's what age?
I got the game there because, it was different. My daddy raised me and told me that a man shouldn't hug another man. So for years, I never hugged my dad. You know, he would say that was funny.
Right.
And so when I went to Southern California and realized that I'm getting away from the drugs here in Little Rock. Southern California had way more drugs than Little Rock. So it took me out of the frying pan, put me right into the fire. So I'll never forget. This is what got me when it came to the gang thing. So I was hanging out with a dude who was an OG, and we would go around, you know, not really knowing what he was, you know, had going. But Little Rock wasn't slow even back then. So I wasn't, you know, put into something that I wasn't aware of.
Right.
Well, I'm sitting there one day, and this dude walked by, had this big old pit bull. And I got to tell this story so you'll understand why I was pulled into this. And remember, my dad would not, he didn't believe in hugging.
Right.
And this dude, he used to walk through, and he had these big old arms, and he used to keep pocket full of money and pit bull. And these dudes pull up in his car. And when they pulled up, the other dude got out. He was like, "Man, the dudes took my car, man, whatever, you know." And he was like, "Yeah, we gonna get him back because they also shot what's his name in the head." So they took him out and rolled in, and I guess they took him to the hospital. I'm sitting right on the back. He had a little bitty area right there to sit. So I'm sitting there watching all of this. So they dude got in the car. They took him to the hospital. About 2 days later, this same dude that was shot in the head with the blood coming out of his head, he pulled back up in another car, and he got out. And the other dude was still standing out there, and I'm not saying any names. I did get a chance to know them. Well, he walked up to dude, and he put his arms around dude, and he said, "I love you, cuz," and do a C on his back. They had me right there. Because my dad told me not to hug no man, that you were going to feel funny. I'm knowing dude them wasn't funny.
Right.
And they was able to hug each other.
Right.
I wanted that.
Right.
I wanted to be able to show my brother, my brother them that I loved them. I could hug them, you know. Right. So that pulled me in. Right. To the gang thing. It started me wanting to have that love. So I did a few things in California that I can't share. And I immediately had to leave. Right. So, and it had nothing to do with the gang members. It had something to do with law enforcement. Right. So I had to leave. Right. And when I came back home, the same week I came back home, my mom's was dying. And so for about 2 weeks, I would not go see her at the hospital. And I just kept getting high and high and high. And then one day, my dad said, "You got to come up here with us." And I'll never forget, walked through the room, and the doctor said, she would not be able to, she can hear you, but she can't talk. She had all these tubes going down her, man. And worst death I had ever seen in my life, but that was God preparing me for what he had known that I was finna go through. And as soon as I walked through there, she said, "Baby, baby, baby." And the thing started ticking, and I leaned down, and she said, "I knew you would come." She said, "You take care of my babies," which was my 2 boys. And she started, those things started going off, and the doctors ran in there. She passed. She waited for me. So in the midst of that there, when I went back to the streets, I went home that night, everything I used to get high for, and I took it in the back and got rid of it and threw it away, threw everything away.
Did you, because I know me coming out of prison, and like I was telling you behind the camera, when it come to the West Ross Pirus, I was a leader of that gang. But I was more put in that position other than trying to get, when I got out of prison, the respect was so heavy. A lot of people get put in OG positions, especially back then, coming up out of prison. If you had a name, depending on what you did before you went to prison. How did that come about with you?
Mine came in the manner of, I started selling drugs. And we had a godfather that was in our neighborhood. And I started selling drugs, so I would buy the drugs from the godfather. Within a month, maybe 2 months, I had brought a lot of that mentality back with me that I had learned when I was in California. Mm-hmm. And so in the midst of that, we start, pulling together sets. And our set was, we were the Rolling 20 Crips, but we were OGC off the 4 block. And we wasn't OGC in the beginning. We were 20 Crips. And what happened was we had got so big that we had so many different other off-branch sets. 19th Street, 13th Street, some nutty blocks. We had so many of them that was there that we had to create something where everybody would be under the umbrella without putting their set down. So that's how the OGC was created. Now and as you said, was I put into that position? No, I think I was put into it by circumstance, but we created that. If that answers your question.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, when it comes to California, LA, whatever, I say LA, Compton, whatever the case might be, it's so many different, like you can go to one block, it's another hood, you go to one block. I've been pretty much around the world a little bit and I never seen another place like that but Little Rock. That's
right.
laced in that same format. Do you think that caused the spiral of violence to go like it did? Because I was thinking what you were saying. Because I can tell when once a hood came to Little Rock, it offspring like wildfire.
It did.
So do you think that is the effects of the violence back then of trying to be? Now I don't want to say trying to be like California or LA, no sense, but representing it to the fullest. Do you think?
Well, before we start banging, there was already some Crips and Bloods down here from California. I used to hang out in Highland Court and Granite Mountain. Mm-hmm. And so there was Crips and Bloods that was down here with, bringing in packages before that. But what happened was once we started putting colors with ours, in our neighborhood, the other neighborhoods did also. Because some of the younger dudes, they were starting to be a little ruthless, like robbing people. And then my whole thing was, after I had got into the real drug part of it, I didn't want anyone in my neighborhood selling drugs from another neighborhood. I wanted them to sell my drugs. And so that's the drugs in the territory created the violence. If it wasn't for the drugs,
right.
If it wasn't for the territory, it wasn't the colors, because I had some Bloods selling packages for me. It wasn't the colors.
Right.
It was the neighborhoods. It was the territory and the money. And once, they seen that the OG, so we blocked it off, started paying OGC on everything. And I had a nightclub that was right on Oak Streets. Right, come up Oak Street. My nightclub was right there. Oak Street never disrespected me. So it was about money. Oak Street was making money. Now, as we went on, some of my little homeboys kind of got into it with Oaks, and so they had some shootings down on Oak Street, but they never disrespected me because I've always, made it to where I'm going to respect you. But if you disrespect me, now I'm paid.
And for you to say that, I seen a clip in the Banging in Little Rock, and it was a mom, and she was saying that, can you give her son back? And I remember you telling her about the streets got your son. And your main word was like, I love that dude.
I love it.
For you to say that and saying what you're saying now, I can see you always had a level head above the red and the blue.
Oh yeah. Because first of all, some of the Blood neighborhoods they wasn't Blood neighborhoods when I was in them. Highland Court wasn't a Blood neighborhood. That was Highland Courts, one of the most notorious projects it is. Granite Mountain wasn't a Blood neighborhood back then. And Apollo Terrace, there was Apollo Terrace in Granite Mountain, notorious. Okay, but as the color thing came in, they start picking different colors. So I could, even dressed out in all blue, go and park one of my blue vests out there in Highland Court and walk through it. Because that's where I had came from, basically. That's where we all hustled from. That was our hustle spot. You know, East End had their hustle spots. So a lot of people ask, how did Highland Court become red? It's because off the 4 block became blue. So people was putting up, you know, different sets in different territories to mark. Now, right now, I still got family that's Highland Court. They still were red, and I love them to death. So that's real. That's some reality stuff. See, I don't have to hide behind nobody and tell fake stories to build myself up. What I was.
Right. Exactly. That's what God had you go through.
Yeah.
them just fact. How do you feel about the state of hip hop? Because I always speak on, you know, we used to do drive-bys listening to, I mean, we did one just like the movie, Boys in the Hood, Hitting the Lights and all that. My first time going to prison. So I know our visual and what we hear affect us. You know what I'm saying? How do you feel about today's hip hop? And do you feel today's hip hop affecting the youth to get into the trouble they're getting into?
I do. And of course I feel you because I used to put on some music when I would go to work.
I'm glad you said that.
You know, and I we would listen to a lot of West Coast music. That was the thing. You know, the Bloods would listen to the West Coast blood music, and the Crips would listen to, you know, the NWA but I had a special thing for like some Scarface. Oh man, I would put on some Scarface and go to work. That's what caused Scarface was one of my like motivating like joints. But you know, so a lot of people, a lot of the other Crips, they liked it. You know, they was a little young over some of them, so they more with the total West Coast Crips. I would always step out of that. I would listen to, some Ghetto Boys. Man, get out of here. You know, back in the days, you know, I would I would bust me some Ghetto Boys. Today, the music then, it was talking about, shooting, whatever, but it talked about real stuff.
Right.
And today, you listening to the rapper saying, knock a girl down, snatch her tracks out.
Straight
you
up.
know, the little grizzly guy.
Right.
You know, he said, knock the girl down, snatch her tracks out, you know, so it's a totally different mentality, and that's why a lot of the youth, I feel, and let's not get it wrong, I love the youth. That's my Achilles heel, young people. That's my Achilles heel. I always feel like I got to do something to help make things better that they won't have to go through. But that music that some of them be listening to is just, it's petty.
So that's why they doing petty crime.
They doing petty stuff.
The music
because
petty.
the music, a lot of the music is
that's
petty.
real. That's real.
You know, and so they're doing petty stuff.
And
that's why, you know, you be like, why you go to jail for doing that? Shoot, you know, they was mean mugging me, or they was doing this to me. And you saying, I'm sitting there saying to myself, okay, I never shot nobody because they screw-faced me or looked at me strange, or they rolled by, they got on Facebook and they said something strange on Facebook.
Right.
So with the music being petty, they also got Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And we didn't have that.
That intensified it.
It puts you, you can come in this, in this place here, cut everything off and make everybody else think that you was like a G.
Right.
Only thing about Lil Rock, once you put it on there like you're a G, it's so small, you gonna walk up on somebody.
Right. Exactly.
And when they walk up on you, they ain't gonna try to get you.
Right.
And you really wasn't about the life.
Right. Exactly.
So that's why so many people, that's, you know, all of the shootings and stuff, and then the guns, you know, let me tell you this story. There was a time off the 4 block when a white man came up to me, got out of the car, came up there. We thought it was the feds. But I told him, I said, you know what? this dude ain't no police. I was like, who is you? He was like, what's going on, OG? I just came to break a little news to you. I'm like, what? He said, what you drinking? I said, we always drink Crown. What you want? What you doing? He said, I'm finna give you a little something. So he said, walk with me. And we walked about 3 steps. And he said, it's going to be a train over there on the train track. It'll be over there for about 3 days. What's in it? You're going to love it. I said, what do you mean by that? And he reached, he looked, he said, you like that, but you got to decide, don't you? See my strap. I said, hell yeah. And he said, and what you got in that bottle there? I said, some brown. He said, now, I'm giving you that. I said, why are you giving me that? He said, man, cause you a G. He turned around, walked, got in the car, and throwed up a C sign and left. So I sent the homies down to scout this out a little bit. It was a train down there and parked there. So we broke in the train. What was in there? Guns. They were plastic though. Plastic guns. 22 longs. Uzis. They were all plastic. Mm. And then on the other thing, a whole thing of liquor. Like gallons of Crown, gallons of Hennessy, gallons of this.
Now, it always been said that back then, they used to let the trains just to flood the pistols in the neighborhood, to flood the liquor in the neighborhood. Do you feel that was part of that program?
I do. I feel like that was put there. And I'm going to share something. I just completed my movie script. Man, and that's going to be part of it, because in the midst of that, and all of the homies.
What's the name of the movie script for you?
I can't give out the name because we hadn't put that with it.
Okay.
But it's my life story.
Okay.
And some of it is fiction, because we had to go with some fiction in order to tell some good stories.
Right.
Well, prior to that man coming, there was a big light that came up over our neighborhood. It was over our neighborhood. You could see it all the way back to like Highland Court.
Yeah.
And nobody ever knew what it was. And my niece, she talks about that today. She said, I remember it, you couldn't even see up in it. And it was up there for about like that night from like 6, because it started getting dark, maybe 6 to about 11 o'clock. Whatever that light was. And then a day later, here come this man to tell us that these guns and the alcohol was in the, that's not something that just happened.
Right.
That was planned.
Right.
That was put right there. And then that's when the real killing intensified, because what I thought about is, who else did he approach and tell them about that?
Right.
Because I had another homeboy that was from, off like between the 4 block and Highland Court. Some of them had some of those guns.
Yeah.
So what did he do? Go to different neighborhoods and tell them all about these guns down there in this train? I don't feel like I was the only one that knew about that.
Yeah, man, that's been a thing that's been said for years, you know, when it comes to the destruction in our neighborhood. And I noticed that, you know, even when it comes to liquor, I mean, words is powerful, man. You know, it's talk about that in the Bible. Even when it said liquor store, or you go to wine and spirits in different neighborhoods, everything is flat-foot shown that the odds is against us as people. Now, a lot of people, when I tell them this, that I wanted to go to prison. You know, I come up gang banging, got put down. I wanted to go to prison because all the OGs, you know, had went to prison. You really wasn't no G until you went to prison. Was you on that level with it, or did you went to prison later on? I know you did 10 years in the feds, right?
Yeah, I went to prison later on, but I had to call some little bitty charges, you know, that would put me in jail off and on. But, during this time when I was banging, man, I had made so much money that I had attorneys. I had, you know, bail bondsmen. I wasn't worried about no jail, and because I was never going to get caught doing anything serious, if that makes sense. I was very smart. In the neighborhood that I was in, I bought walkie-talkies. I was one of nobody knew about that. We had these walkie-talkies that came down and go like this. And I was paying the young dudes $100 a day. And all they had to do was ride their bikes. Mm-hmm. And put some of them up on 13th, some of them down. And so we was the base. And so they would be like one time 12th Street.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I know the folks was up on 12th Street.
Right.
If they coming down the 4 block, yeah. 3 times 4 block. So we were so far above technology than a whole lot of the other neighborhoods. Right. And that's why, and there was another little thing that I got to share this part. There was strategy. I treated the crackheads, the people that smoked, I treated them with love. If you came and you come to my neighborhood and you were spending $10 and another dude was coming and spending $40,000, I'm taking care of the $10 person first. And I'm talking and I'm leaving the dudes to know that's spending 40, like scared, like, thinking he gonna get robbed, but I'm messing with them. And so when I went to federal, went in front of the U.S. attorney and I ended up taking the charge for everybody in my case. Everybody. Nobody went to prison but me under my whole 16 count indictment. After I took the charge, he asked me, he said, I just got to know, why was we not able to send any of the smokers? Was they that afraid of you? And I said, no, Bob, they respected me. It was respect, had nothing to do with fear. Everyone that they feared, they went in there and bought for them. Okay? You see what I'm saying? So they never came. It was this one dude who kind of came in and kind of bought a little something from, my homeboy had warned him, but I could have beat the case. And they know I could have beat the case, but when they come and say, we'll let everybody go. Right. But we want you. As an OG, as a real person raised under my brother, them under some real dudes, what was I supposed to do? Right.
That's why you here today. I heard you say that when it come to, you had love for the Dolphins and all, the other side and all. And I believe, like a lot of people don't know, when you in leadership, gang leadership like that, it's a lot of stuff happen on your watch, even when it ain't on your watch, because they looking to get stripes off doing something so somebody can come back and tell you. Right. I feel like I survived for a minute, like a 10-year gap. I used to look like, dang, I put homie down. He got 100 years. I put him down. And it was affecting me. Mm-hmm. And I knew a lot of things weren't going right in my life because of that, but I always had a bug of God and love and respect. And I feel like that would have kept me here. That would have kept you here. The love part about it. You can be in the streets and still be a good person. Right. Everybody in the streets ain't bad. Even if you're a gangster. That's right. Even if you're a gangster. I agree with you. I agree with you now. And then after you're still there, you get different stories. When I had opened up my after school program, I used to give out coats to kids. Coats to, children all across. And I never forget one of my neighbors, a young dude, he was a blood. He came over and he said, "Oh, gee, I got my uncle here, man. He want to get some coats for his baby." And he told me the age. He had 3 girls and 3 boys. So I went and got his 3 girls' coats out of my van. And when I came over to him, I said, well, you get with dude here tomorrow and I have your coats for your boys. And he smiled. He said, man, I just got to tell you, man, you're the reason why I'm not in the gang now, man. I got much love from you. So, of course, he was stroking my ego. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'm smiling like, oh yeah. I said, how did that happen? He said, you shot me. I said, huh? So he started taking off his shirt. And then it all popped back in. He said, I started walking, cause I had some relatives that I told you, I had some red people selling for my thing, and I was dropping off a package. So I would pull up in my vet and, pull up in my bed, had the top off, but I was going to take my little family
a package. As I was walking, this dude come from across the street. He was saying, man, what's up? He called me a C-Rab, you know, and I'm started looking at him because I wasn't tripping. I'm looking at him. He was like, you can come around here with that. So I'm going to meet my relative who's coming out of the house. Mm-hmm. And as soon as he walked up to me, he started walking to me. And when he did this, to me, that was aggression. And when he did this, that's when I started shooting him. I shot him in the mouth. When he turned, I shot him in the side of his head right here. And I shot him in the back of his neck and shot him in the back. And then when I walked over, I shot him walked over him. I shot him in his back and his butt. Gave my relative the package. Turned around. Walked back at him in my vet and left. I thought he was gone. He wasn't supposed to be there. I thought it was a wrap for him. So all of that time, my Lord had abused him, and he said that the reason it was because he seen a dude who was supposed to be his homeboy walk up to me. He said, I could still see. And he took the package. He didn't try to defend me. He took the package from you and left me on the ground. He said, at that point, I never want to be a gang member no more. You know, he said, you saved my life. I got grandkids now. You know, and I'm saying, wow, that was really deep.
That's deep.
You know, and even though now, I told him, I said, well, you know, have neighbor to get the coats for you, because at that point now, I'm like, you I don't let you get too close to me, man. I know it's years later, you know. But yeah, so that means a dude said, it stopped him from banging, and he got grandkids, you know, he got grandkids and stuff. So things happen. I believe that my whole life happened because the Creator wanted me to go through some things so I could be right here today.
True.
Talking to you.
That's a fact. That's a fact. What made you change? At what point you got to it, like, I'm done?
It was multiple things, man. I've seen so many people die. I've seen so many people die, man. You gotta hear me what I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand.
I've seen so many people die. And back when I told you the story about my mom's dying, that was the hardest death in the world for me. So God was preparing me for what he knew I was going to have to go through. So I was always the one when everybody's falling out, I'm sitting there like it's going to be okay, you know. So for years, I never mourned, ever mourned, ever. So I had all of this into me. I just felt like I mourned maybe. My brother DeWitt passed about 2 years ago. I didn't mourn then. But one night, I kind of mourned since then. Been about 3 months ago. I kind of mourned. And God knew that it was enough. But I didn't have a chance to mourn. So many of my people was dying. And I wanted to do something. So I even started reaching out. If you're noticing that banging in Little Rock, we were sitting there talking while they were putting stuff in the dumpster. I reached out to some other OGs and started asking to see if we could create a safe environment for kids, where it was off limits for any gangster, any shooter to come by and shoot at that environment where those kids was. So I had started doing things way back to try to, you know, stop that. So a lot of people don't know, you know, Centennial Park, for about 3 years straight, we put up a peace tree. A lot of people don't know that. At that time, Representative Bill Walker, he got us this 50-foot tree, and we started putting, you know, things, hanging ornaments, and made the ground up at Centennial Park sacred ground so that the Bloods would come up, they wouldn't get shot. And by Christmas, the dang tree would be green and blue. Red and blue. So we were doing some things even back then. Nobody want to ever give us credit. They say we were monsters. But we were trying the best we could because we wasn't really aware of the outcomes of what was really happening. It already happened on the West Coast, but it hadn't already happened down in the South.
So yeah, man, I must say, you know, through it all, everything that you have been through, and still to be here today with motivation, showed up early, you know what I'm saying? And it's rare we see OGs with the motivation like you have or I have. What do you feel like the difference is? I know so many people that's in the streets, but when it come to helping the youth or reaching back, I know everybody is not a leader. You know what I'm saying? But what force, what is your force? I'm hearing you right now talk about death. And I speak a lot about this because it's more important than money. I mean, you can lose a certain person. It can be your mother, your brother, whatever the case. And life will never be the same. I don't care what type of $1 million an individual get. What can you tell the youth when it come to the loss of, deaths and when it come to them chasing money? Because they chasing this money. You go 20, 30 years and then just to realize that all of it was for nothing. You know what I mean? Like, what can you tell them about death, the realness of life? What's more important? What's more important?
Well, I guess the most important thing is for our youth and for our youth to understand and for our OGs to teach. Those video games are not for real. You can shoot 1 million people in them and restart it. Once a person is gone, they're gone. When you pull that trigger on that joint and it hit, it's a wrap. But also you flip it around when you in that environment and somebody pull that trigger and it hit, then you fall within the arms of the Lord, whether you're going to survive or not.
Right.
So my thing is, because the way the laws have been structured around us, that any affiliation can get you a charge.
Right.
So I understand why a lot of the OGs be like, I don't want to be seen. I don't want to come forth and be seen because they give me that affiliation. And, say they hit with a RICO. Everybody going, even if you just a innocent bystander. So we had to learn the laws. Here about 6 months ago, about 8 months ago, because I broke my neck. I reached out to all of the OGs. And we all met. A lot of people don't know that. We met for some weeks down at this big mosaic church down here. We were meeting, and I got pictures. We had to be smart about it. Here's the smartness. So I'm teaching now. So whenever you want all of the OGs to get together, what you have to do is you have to find someone who's in law enforcement. You have to find someone who's a pastor. You have to find someone who's lost their babies or who's lost somebody that they love. And you bring them all together at one. Two things that does. If you're on probation or parole, it'll keep your probation or parole officer from violating you because you'll have a law enforcement there. It could be somebody that's doing work in the community, but he's a law enforcement. We had Officer Willie Davis there and some other people from Little Rock. There was good police officers that come from the neighborhoods that end up being police officers. So we had them there. So we have to learn the laws to where we can't be snatched away because probation officers see, you can't be around gang members. You can't be around drug dealers. Well, you can if you have a law enforcement there. A lot of people don't know that because that neutralized the whole thing. A lot of people don't know that. So a lot of people that really want to make a difference in their neighborhood, they don't know how. They're just afraid that they're going to get snatched. So that's the one thing for the OGs. That's what I'm teaching them. You can come together and help your community. The young people. Okay? It's not soft to feel when you're hurting about something. There's nothing soft about that. It's not soft to speak out about it in a manner to tell someone. And it's not soft to stand up with someone who's standing against the violence and the killing. Okay? You got people whose name ringing. They're all dead. They can kill like this here. You know? And it's always that one who decided, he might have been just as gangster, but he decided that's not the way I want to go. I don't want my kids in this. He's the one left to do the talking.
Right.
Why?
All the real ones got dead in jail.
Yeah, mostly because they don't want to accept the real fact. They want to sit back, and a lot of OGs though, they're still behind the scenes pulling them strings. And that's why they can't get out and come and do what you and I are doing here. I had to let it go completely. Cause I know them folks was watching me. More than that, at my after school program, I know my kids was watching me. I could not be doing no slick on the side selling no drugs.
Right.
They see everything just like I see everything about them. And I this one little kid, I see him, I always see him and he'll say, that man right there, he taught me a lot. And my thing to him, I say, and you sure taught me a lot also.
What do that do for you?
Man, it gives me a peace. It really do. It gives me peace. I have this one kid that wanted to be in the game. I went and got him. I never forget. He turned around when I went in this really notorious blood neighborhood and got him in an old station wagon car. Never forget. And as I was walking, I heard somebody in the background say, "Oh Lord, here comes Mr. LaFell." And when I got to him, I said, "So you want to be a gang member?" No, I don't think so. But his daddy was retired military. He'd been life military. So we got him in the military. Fast forward to 4 years, I'm sitting in front of my computer. Something popped up and say, "Mr. LaFell, I want to call you." I'm like, "Who is this?" Put my number in there. He called. It was this same kid who ended up going to the military. And he was crying. He was boo-hooing. He said, "I've been an MP since I've been in the military. And I want to be a police officer when I come home, Mr. Phil, but I don't think my friend's going to accept it." I said, "Well, when you come home, I'll get you a ride along. And if they try to mess you around, they're not your friends, man." Sure enough, well, fast forwarded really fast. This guy ended up being a Little Rock police officer. From there, he ended up being an Army Ranger. Now, I don't know if you know what those Rangers have to do. They like Army SEALs, the Rangers. They do this stuff. And he went on to become a FBI agent.
Yeah, that's great.
Whenever I see him, whatever, like a lot of, I won't say who his name is, but he'll come on my Facebook and be like, "Hey, Mr. Phil, I love you."
So it is effective.
Very effective.
A lot of people don't think it's effective, but as long as what they said, as long as you reach one or two.
You reach one or two. The crazy part about it is the whole center that I was at, all of those, not all of them didn't become FBI agents, but I'm proud of all of them. One of them is a school teacher. One of them is on a beauty shop. One of them is just a mom and raising her kids. So if they went on out to become parts of our communities. Some of them dads was gang members. Okay? I never forget this one dude contacted me from prison. He was like, "Oh, so Mr. Phil, hey, Mr. Phil, this is so-and-so." I'm like, "What's going on?" He said, "Man, I seen a picture of my daughter, something," he said. And I said, "So, and what's wrong with it?" "Well, I don't want her around no dudes be wearing blue because they might get to me." I said, "Man, you need to probably do your time. I got your baby out here." I said, "Nobody's going to hurt now one of these kids." Okay. And with that there later, after his kid got bigger, now he still contact me from prison and be like, "Hey, Mr. Phil, how's it going, man?" I'm like, "It's going all right." So a lot of the parents, a lot of dudes in prison, people call them parents, they call them ineffective parents, whatever. They love their babies, man. They made mistakes.
Right.
They went through the real ringer trying to follow what I once tried to follow too. But I ended up coming home, and a lot of them didn't come home. But I always tell them the same thing. Keep believing, like I did. Every night I went to sleep, I woke up in prison that morning that I was going to come home.
Do you believe, man, and we about to get up out of here in a minute, do you believe prison is effective? I think if I wouldn't have went to prison, I wouldn't have changed. I changed in prison at Bricking Unit. Do you think the system is effective?
I think that the different people have different levels of being affected. It's affected to a person who already know that's really not where they want to be, but it saved them and gave them a chance to get, to pull themselves away. I was addicted to money. If I wouldn't have went to prison, I would have probably been dead. period. Okay? I went from being addicted to drugs to addicted to money. So taking me away from that gave me an opportunity to refocus where I wanted to go. You know, prison helps. I don't know if it helps, but it puts a stop to some people. Some people, I don't care what you do for them. They're going to continue to do the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't care
I see that.
if you give them trillions of dollars and say you don't never have to sell drugs in your life. They'll go and sell a dime rock down the street and have $1 trillion. That's what they do. But there's some people who get a chance to pull away and it's affected to them. But the laws are racist to the extent to where you can't make a mistake and learn from it, because under the crack laws in the federal, if you sell a $10 thing, they're going to have $10 mandatory 10 years. So it's saying that I can come outside and sit on this corner with a pound of cocaine and cook a gram out of it, and the police ride up at the same time. So me with the pound, I'm going to get probation, but you're going to get a mandatory 10 years for that rock.
Right.
That's racist laws. Okay? So that's what's not affected. The racist laws, and that a police can come up and me and you standing here and he can charge this man. We're doing the same thing. He can charge him under a different statute that would give him more time than he charged me. That's racist. So that's the difference in what you would call the how important it is to take some people off the street and give them a start, but not hide them.
Right. Well, man, y'all have heard it. Phil Jackson, the one and only, man. I appreciate you for coming through. I mean, you have dropped some jewels. We waiting on what you said, the movie.
Yes,
y'all working on to come through.
We're really close to finishing the editing of the movie script.
Okay.
But I've been in negotiation with a couple of people on a series, and I'm not gonna call their names because they're doing major things. Hey, I'm telling you now, I've been in negotiations with a few really top level people about where we're going with everything. So, y'all keep your ear to the ground, and right before we do something, I gotta come back to your show.
Man, appreciate you for coming through, man. I had a good conversation. I learned something myself, man. And we out, man. We'll see y'all next time.